Hello, hello, welcome to How to Play D&D, the explainer podcast with one experienced dungeon master and one failed scriptwriter to discuss D&D topics. My name is Kinsey, and my spectacular guest this week is Steph, founder of Girls and Pals, a TTRPG community for women and femme-presenting folks in Cornwall, UK and online. Hello, Steph.
Hello, Connor. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. Lots of people recommended that you come on. So technically, based on recommendations, you are our biggest guest ever.
Oh, God.
Yeah, no pressure. no pressure at all from you.
From little old Cornwall.
Yeah, that's where everything starts. All the good adventures in the UK start in Cornwall, to be fair.
In a field.
Yeah, somewhere. Field in England. Steph, what is our topic for this week that you've chosen?
Our topic for this week is creating a community in D&D.
Let's get to it. Okay, so today's episode is about creating a community, why it's important to find yours, and how can someone make their own in a place that is begging for one. Steph, I've got a bag of centipedes in my pocket and I'm feeling ticklish. What am I doing?
You've got a bag of centipedes in your pocket and you're feeling ticklish. You are filled with the spirit of mischief and you're just about to cause havoc at your 90-year-old grandmother's birthday party.
Do you know, throwing logic in there, that this is why you're the top guest. This is why you're the top guest. It's things like that, being able to throw it back at me, make me nervous. Incredible. To the real questions, can you start by telling us who you are and why this topic is important to you?
Sure. Hello, I am Steph. I am a GM and AP performer based down in Cornwall, UK. And this topic is important to me because I run a community for people in the D&D space, specifically, as we've said, for women and femme-presenting people. It's important to me because as a femme-presenting person who was looking to get into D&D, before it really hit the mainstream, I'd had experiences where they weren't maybe so good, maybe not from people like trying to be exclusionary, but just from a kind of perspective of, I want to say gatekeeping, but not to that extent, but, you know, a protectiveness over the space and the community, and maybe a little bit of lack of understanding on how to make those spaces feel safe and welcoming. And so, I was given the opportunity last year to start up my own, and it's kind of run away from me a bit and grown more than I expected it to. But yeah, I think it's so important that, you know, the TTRPG sphere is somewhere that we can welcome people in, given the history of D&D and the societal expectation around it. And those of us who play know that it's not like that for the main, to be able to put that out and, you know, create something for people where they can feel safe to explore, where they can make friends, form new groups and a community all of their own.
Amazing. Well, I instantly had more questions than I've written down just from that, but I think we will get to them. I'm always just too keen. When you started Girls and Pals, what was the general goal? Like, you kind of summarized it then, but like from your experience, but like, what was the general goal? Was it difficult to build that community up?
So what happened was myself and a couple of the lads that I play with over at Dragonborn Industries were invited by our local game store, Happy Piranha, shout out the Piranha Cafe, to come in and run some introductory sessions for Dungeons and Dragons because they've just got this new cafe space, and they were like, we want people who we know can talk to people and be patient with people, and we know you guys, you know, is that something you want to do? And we were like, yeah, that'd be great fun. And then they said, in return, what is something you want to do with us that we'll make happen? And I immediately was like, I want to do games for women and femmes, 100%. And I was thinking I'd maybe run 3 games tops. And then like people would be like, okay, we've had a go. We either don't like it or we love it. We'll go and make our own games or leave it forever. And it just spiraled so much. I had waiting lists We've been selling out of games consistently. We've also then been in a position to run larger events to raise money for charities in the local area, and even started kind of branching out online to increase our accessibility as well. But like my main thing in the first instance was if there's a new game shop opening up, a new game space, I want there to be a group of people who usually would feel on edge walking into that space to feel at ease, and that there is somewhere they can go with a group of people who are going to be like, it's okay, we get it, and we're all nervous ourselves. Let's get over that together and see what we can create. And yeah, I think from the very first session, that kind of happened.
Mm.
And I had a few booked in, and it was about by the third one, I was like, I think I've got something here that could go further. And yeah, so that's what we've been doing for the last year is just increasing what we do, listening to community feedback, and yeah, always putting our community at the forefront.
Well, let's get into that as to why people join. So, like, without giving specific examples, as in kind of like picking people out, I suppose. What is the repeat them? What is the repeat reason as to why people are reaching out to you, and what are you doing with your platform that others could do too?
Sure. I think the main thing that we get is we get a lot of people who've maybe moved down to Cornwall or have lived in Cornwall their whole lives, and as adults are finding it very isolating. We are a very rural area. We are cut off. I'm so sorry. I have a really disruptive little cat. Hello,
Honestly,
goodbye.
we've had like 400 cats. We've even had budgies on this podcast
Oh
that have just
wow.
kind of flown past. So, like, don't worry.
But yeah, I think people find it very isolating down here. It's hard to get around. We don't have great public transport links. Everything that happens for like the nerd sphere tends to happen outside of the Southwest.
Mm,
So I think that's something I've heard repeatedly is it's somewhere people know they can go, have a good time, and meet like-minded people. Also, we get a lot of people who've been wanting to try D&D but haven't necessarily had the tools or the knowledge of where to go to do that. So Baldur's Gate 3 tends to be the
yeah.
no, sorry, pumpkin. Oh, uh, Baldur's
If
Gate 3,
anyone's just listening, Steph has just launched a cat across a room.
he's a naughty little boy. But yeah, Baldur's Gate 3 tends to be the kind of big thing that draws people. Like, I've played Baldur's Gate 3. I love the idea of this. I love the RP. I love the dice rolling. I don't know how to go from here. Um, and we get quite a few people not wanting to join things like Adventurers League or sort of like epics and things, just because they feel a bit overwhelmed by the unknown of it, because like they don't really know who's going to be at the table, and sometimes being in a space with, um, I mean, and I tend to hesitate when saying these kind of things because I know some of the responses that come back from it.
Mm,
But being in an all-female presenting space is a very different feeling.
yeah.
It does instantly put you at ease as a woman or a femme. And so, that's kind of what I've heard a lot from people who've come to play. And I think that's something that I try to bear in mind as much as possible. Because I have had people ask before, oh, would you expand it further? And at the moment, no, I wouldn't. And I think that's something, if you are looking to create a community in D&D, you need to think about who your community is and how you are going to serve them and protect them. I used to work in
Mm,
education. I worked a lot in pastoral care. Safeguarding is always at the forefront of my mind in everything I do. I want to make sure that people are as protected as they can be in that space. And if they feel uncomfortable, be able to say that they're uncomfortable. So, we did a Pride special. We played Grant Howitt's Big Gay Orcs, and we opened up to the whole LGBTQ plus community. Um, and, I get messages asking about, if you're in transition, if you're non-binary, and yes, that's why we're gals and pals.
mm,
And it's not putting a blockade on going, "Ah, no boys, or anything like that. Because quite frankly, boys have plenty. You have
yeah.
your
Yeah.
spaces.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, this is something that is allowing particularly people who are more nervous or more socially anxious to grow in confidence to then be able to go out and do those things. And we've seen it routinely. There's a fantastic group called Wizards and Warlords who've been running in Truro for forever. And they run the Adventures League at the Piranha Cafe. And so many of the Gals and Pals crew have then started playing in Adventures League, which is fantastic. And it's wonderful to see them kind of gain that confidence and go out. And I think, so yeah, that's the kind of waffly way of saying know who you are looking after and make
Mm.
sure that you're doing it regardless.
I think also it's important to point out that like if people are looking in at something they're not a part of and they go, well, why is that not for me?
Yeah.
They're instantly looking at as they're it's almost on the attack subconsciously in the sense of or indirectly the fact that they're going, well, why is that not for me? Rather than why does that group exist? Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's definitely a group for you. You just decided that that one you're not getting to be a part of and you're not
Yeah.
questioning why. Um, I see that all the time in all sorts of walks of life, especially in my own work. So yeah, I totally get that, and I think it is really important for people to know that there is actually a lot of spaces out there, and it's not kind of like the first hurdle, which will go into kind of the next question. Actually, is in the D&D community, it feels to me to be the most diverse and accepting of any hobby that I've been a part of.
Yeah.
Why are communities important?
Communities are important because after some years, I think the D&D community has obviously expanded and it's brilliant to see it in more mainstream and everything, but there are always going to be groups that you don't vibe with,
Yeah.
and that's fine. And it's knowing who you feel good with, who you have a rapport with, and can build those communities, but not just within the framework of D&D. It also can then expand your social life. It can expand your well-being, because it gives you a support network as well. We play these fantasy games, we get lost in these stories, but we go through stuff together. You go through ups and downs, traumas, loss, grief, and there's definitely a real world bleed over to the point where, Pumpkin, I'm trying to be verbose. Can you not? My dude, this is. Come on, down you get. I do apologize.
You'll get your
Um,
speech there ruined by another player.
Honestly, toxic behavior, Pumpkin.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's we do get a lot of like real world bleed over, and I think when you've gone through certain experiences together, it strengthens those bonds as well. So it's not just a case of we play for a couple of hours of like a Thursday night, we go home and forget about it. You're still talking about the game, you're
Mm.
still thinking about your character, and it's forging those bonds which then kind of grow outwards. And in this day and age of social media as well, like I see people putting out like their character playlists and collages and saying like, "Oh, tell me about your D&D character," and someone's going, "Oh my God, I played something similar to that. I love playing this species. I love playing this class. Let's talk about it." And it's almost like a kind of um, you know a spread of that sense of belonging. I think is really important.
No, I totally agree. It's we've got a lot of episodes on the podcast about kind of like well-being and you know, patience, self-care beyond literally the series called Beyond the Table because actually I think if this for a lot of people they only might only have that as their hobby. And
Yeah,
arguably if you're not at work and that's your only kind of like downtime, it's important that it's not just that like 4 hours a week or whenever you're doing it, you know.
absolutely.
Um, so yeah, I totally agree. The community is so important, and on the ground level, it's kind of like it could just be that session zero of reading the room, working it out if it's for you.
Yeah,
But beyond that, you might not want to just be like the first five people you play with. It might be the fact that in that group every week you see, you could join them this week, or you could talk to them and kind of like
yeah.
converse outside of the sessions. Um, so the next question then is do you think it's important for people to continue to find communities once they've found their first? Is there fault in getting comfortable with accepting the first group you find and not venturing further? So I see this quite a lot with different groups where, in the fact that I have this podcast, you get invited to things as people go, oh, would you like to come to this? And, you go to like day events and stuff. And then you go, I did not know this existed. That's incredible. But then you're kind of like on the outside looking in and those people might be there forever and that's it. And then you can see the fact that they've just accepted their fate of that's it. There's
Yeah.
not more outside of that. You said earlier with Gals and Pals that people who've joined that and they might not have played ever have then gone on to join the Adventurers League with a much wider group of people because they found the confidence. Do you think that's important?
I think it very much depends on the individual, because sometimes you get real lucky and you find your people straight away and you're like, yeah, this is it. And that's enough to fulfill you. And if that's you, fair play, great going. But conversely, sometimes if it's not quite right or it gets bad, because it can, things happen, people change, people evolve, things can shift. There is absolutely no harm in saying no and
Mm.
stepping away. It is very hard to do. Um, and it can be really challenging as like a personal milestone to go, actually, I need to step away from this. And I think a lot of people worry about losing that sense of community and losing that game, losing the character. Um, but when it's at the detriment of your own well-being, your mental health, it's a step that is unfortunately necessary. And so forging those bonds beyond your circle can then be really beneficial. Like you can get people go, oh, well, actually, I've got a space that's opened up on my table. Why don't you come along, sit in, see what you think of it, see if it's right for you? Um, it's you don't have to commit. D&D and TTRPGs are not monogamous. You don't have to be with the same group forever. And if you
Mm.
are, fantastic, amazing, how lucky. But talk to people outside of that because you never know what opportunities then open up. So if you are interested in, trying other systems, other games, um, you know, that's a way to do that. If people going, actually, I've got this TTRPG I'd love to try out, but I don't have anyone to play it with. And you're like, oh, well, actually, that's something I'm very interested in. So yeah, it very much depends on the person, but I would always advocate for at least talking to people and seeing what's out there to be able to make an informed decision.
So this will add another question to the mix then is if you do see that people are kind of there, but they've kind of like they're looking for their footing in a new group, maybe they've done their time in this community, for example, and they want to see new things. You said earlier that it is difficult to kind of go, I thought this was my entire group now. I'm ready, but I'm actually ready to develop. If you, I mean, there's definitely foresight there that you can see it in people around you, like your
Hmm.
friends and family and whatnot. Do you ever, as the person who's running this community, step in and say, I can see that, it's all right to go and look for another group. Maybe this one isn't working out for you.
Well, we operate on a kind of active encouragement of
Mm.
finding groups from the offset. Gals and Pals is meant to be a springboard, and it's amazing. We've got so many people who want to come back and want to play and are interested in the stories that we're telling. But it's always been a part, like particularly for like our Discord server, we always have had a channel for looking for games, and we are always like, go play, go meet people. Like if you've got on well with this table, why don't one of you step into the GM role? Like, why don't you give that a go? And it's something that, we definitely try and foster. So if someone comes up and is like, oh, actually, my time's being a bit more taken up with this thing, I'm like, amazing, perfect. That's incredible for you. Because as much as I would love to be running like a long-term campaign, I'd have to be running it every single day of the week
Mm.
to be able to do it for all of the people who've been coming to Gals and Pals. And it's just not feasible. So, yeah, I'm always excited when someone's come in and go, "Oh, actually, I'm going to have a go at GMing today," and I'm like, oh, "That's incredible!" And I am going to name drop her because she's incredible and she deserves the love. Imogen, who's under Lich Please,
Yeah.
she's fantastic. She is one of our like OG Gals and Pals, and seeing her crop up on like actual plays now and running her own games, I am just so thrilled and proud of what she's doing. And I'm the same with anyone who, even if they're like, oh, I've met a bunch of people through my college course and we're going to start up a game together. I get exactly the same feeling of pride and joy because they found something that speaks to them and they're out there, bringing their own stories into the world. So yeah, we're always very much, please go and find other groups. Not that we don't
Yeah.
want you, but we'd love you to find your own people
Yeah.
as well as us. Like
Imogen is
we're a
actually Imogen is actually one of the people who recommended you, and yeah, and I've actually played in a game with Imogen, and I wouldn't have guessed that she was some kind of someone who needed kind of an entry into it, and then the confidence to do something else. So it clearly,
yeah.
even from not knowing what you've just told me, beforehand, I've experienced that and seen that
Yeah.
difference, obviously, from
I
what you've
mean,
described.
she's an absolute force. She's going to make waves in this community because she's just incredible.
Let's not
Absolutely
give her too
incredible.
much credit because then she'll forget us. And
She's not allowed to. She's
yeah,
just signed a contract with me in blood.
yeah. She's committed to the role. She's
Yeah.
committed. All right. Well, last question already. Do you have any advice for those looking to start their own, or even just to find one, in terms of like start their own community, or just to find one? What's the easiest way to do that?
Easiest way to do that is talk to people. Talk to people who are already doing it. Take support from one another. So I've kind of looked at what other groups are doing in the local area and beyond. I mean, I'm very heavily in awe of Zoe at Women of TTRPG and the community that she's built over the last 5 years. But then it's also knowing your limitations and when to bring in help. I've brought on Siobhan of the Dead to come and help me with Gals this year because I need another person to be able to
Mm,
do it. But also knowing the admin side of it. If you are running something in a public space that's public facing, you need to know how to protect yourself in there as well. Public liability insurance, that's a big thing. If you are doing anything, and I say this very pointedly because I know so many groups don't do this, if you are working with under 18s, get a DBS check. Get public liability insurance and make sure you have a child protection policy in place. These are things that often get ignored, but if something goes wrong, you need to have a protection in place for yourself. And it's not to say it
right.
would, but the world we live in, stuff can happen.
Yeah.
But again, talk to people, reach out. This community is so diverse and full of people who have those experiences and know what they're talking about in terms of things that maybe you wouldn't necessarily think come into D&D and TTRPGs. Social media, Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, there are so many conversations happening around this, and you will inevitably find something that maybe you see a gap for and you go, I think I can fill that gap. So it's just being invested in the space, aware of it, and I think passionate enough to know when you need to take a step back from it as well and let
Mm.
it grow at its own pace.
Yeah, we've had that. I mean, just from setting this up 2 years ago, going from me and a co-host to then, all right, it's just me, and then realizing how many people were just happy to jump on. Obviously, from the pessimistic side of it is like, well, then it advertises them, but it's not. It's like one of the hobbies where like people love playing D&D, people love talking about TTRPGs. They're willing to just be on it, regardless of what their kind of the outcome is. They just
Yeah.
want to be doing it more than what they can in their weekly game, And it's always surprising how much people are willing to support because for the love of it, in rather than like like a sole purpose for them.
Yeah.
Same with the people that recommended yourself is a great example of that. They could have recommended themselves. So yeah, it's been thank you very much for today. It's almost sad that it's that short, but I'm sure we'll be
Yeah.
on for other sessions. Have you got any other
Absolutely.
kind of things you'd like to put out there before we end?
Just in general.
We could do. I mean, I'm about to end the episode and then go into a plug for yourself and what you do.
Okay. Yeah, I would say I'm gonna end with the tagline that I always end Gals and Pals with. Be gay, do crime, roll dice, have fun.
Beautiful. We'll take that. We'll take that. Okay. Today's adventure has sadly come to a close. We're back again next week with the topic, who put 50p in Donald Trump? And as always, thank you for tuning in. And if you'd like to join in another D&D action, then please follow us on Instagram at How to Play D&D, or check out the link on our bio to join our Discord server, and also check out Black Mark Clo on Instagram for cool D&D clothing. Steph, where can we find you and what do you do?
You can find me at Little Goblin Girl or at Gals and Pals for the community page. If you want to see what I do and the work that I do, you can find the Gals and Pals at YouTube, and I also stream with Dragonborn Industries.
Amazing. And all of that will be in the show notes as always, as well as all the kind of social pieces we do with collaborations. So you can't miss her. All right, with that then, I've been Connor Kinsey.
I've been Steph Randallson.
Good day.